Jack the Ripper, a tale of mystery, fear, and shadows. London, 1888. Imagine this. The year is 1888. Fog rolls thick through the narrow gas-lit streets of Whitechapel, a poor and overcrowded district in the East End of London. Horse-drawn carriages clatter over the cobblestones, chimney smoke curls into the grey sky, and the scent of coal, beer, and desperation fills the air. This is a time of immense change. Queen Victoria sits on the throne, and the British Empire rules over a quarter of the world. Yet here, in these cramped, forgotten alleys, the empire feels distant. Here, people live hand to mouth. The law is a ghost, and fear is a permanent resident. And in the autumn of this year, something terrible begins to stalk these streets. A shadow, a killer, someone who will soon become one of the most infamous names in criminal history. Jack the Ripper. Chapter 1. The First Murders. To truly understand the horror of the first killings, we need to first immerse ourselves in the atmosphere of Victorian London, a city of vast contrasts. In 1888, London was the beating heart of a global empire, but its East End was another world entirely. Whitechapel, in particular, was synonymous with grinding poverty, overcrowding, and desperation. Immigrants and outcasts crowded into slums, disease was rampant, and the police were viewed with suspicion rather than trust. Many residents survived through sex work, casual labor, or crime. Moral panic over the deserving versus undeserving poor raged in Parliament and the press. The area was a powder keg, social unrest, xenophobia, and economic hardship simmered under the surface. Into this volatile mix stepped a killer. It all starts on the morning of August 31st, 1888. A woman named Mary Ann Nichols, known to many as Polly, is found lying on her back in Bucks Row. Her throat has been slit twice, and her lower abdomen savagely mutilated. There's no blood trail, no sign of struggle. It's as if death came silently, in the blink of an eye. Just over a week later, on September 8th, another body. This time it's Annie Chapman. She's discovered in a backyard off Hanbury Street. Her throat is cut, her abdomen laid open, and gruesomely, some of her internal organs have been taken. London panics. Rumours spread like wildfire. 2 murders in the same area, with almost surgical mutilation. This isn't random. This is deliberate. Planned. People start whispering. Is there a madman in their midst? The fear spreads faster than the fog. Chapter 2. The Victims. Over the next 2 months, 3 more women are found brutally murdered. Elizabeth Stride, discovered on September 30th in Dutfield's yard. Her throat is slashed, but the body isn't mutilated. Perhaps the killer was interrupted. Catherine Eddowes, murdered on the same night, found in Mitre Square. Her face is slashed, her abdomen deeply mutilated, and her kidney removed. Mary Jane Kelly, the last known victim, killed on November 9th. She is murdered indoors, in her own room on Miller's Court. What was done to her is so horrific, even seasoned detectives were shaken. All the victims were women. All lived in poverty. Most were sex workers, or women who had fallen through the cracks of society. And all were killed with increasing brutality. These women had names, they had stories, they were not just victims of a killer, but also victims of a system that offered them little in the way of protection, dignity, or care. And this made people even more afraid, because the Ripper wasn't just targeting anyone. He was targeting the forgotten, the invisible, those most in need of help. Chapter 3. Letters from Hell. On September 27th, a letter arrives at the Central News Agency. It begins, "Dear Boss." It's written in red ink, signed Jack the Ripper. It taunts the police, mocks the panic, and describes the murders with chilling detail. Soon after, another letter arrives, accompanied by half of a human kidney preserved in wine. The press goes wild. The name Jack the Ripper is splashed across headlines. For the first time, a serial killer has a brand, and the public, already frightened, becomes obsessed. Whether the letters were truly from the killer is debated to this day. Some believe they were the work of journalists or pranksters. But one thing is certain. The Ripper had seized the city's imagination. The letters kept coming, more than 200 over the next few months. Most were hoaxes. But the fear, that was very real. Chapter 4. The hunt begins. Scotland Yard is under enormous pressure. The Metropolitan Police launch a full-scale manhunt, interrogating suspects, conducting door-to-door interviews, and even offering rewards. But forensic science is in its infancy. Fingerprinting isn't used yet. DNA? Decades away. There are thousands of leads, but no solid answers. Witnesses give conflicting descriptions. Some say the man wore a dark coat and a deerstalker hat. Others swear he was foreign, possibly Jewish. The Ripper moves like smoke, always just ahead, always out of reach. To make matters worse, the media fans the flames. Cartoonists portray the Ripper as a cloaked, shadowy phantom. The East End becomes a theatre of fear. Vigilante patrols roam the streets. Innocent people are accused and beaten. Police morale plummets. And then there were the false alarms. Hundreds of them. Every shadow in an alley became a potential killer. Every stranger was suspect. Chapter 5. The Suspects. Many suspects have been proposed over the years. Some were investigated at the time. Others became suspects later, thanks to authors, sleuths, and conspiracy theorists. Montague John Droot, a barrister and schoolteacher who was reportedly dismissed from his job shortly before his death. He was found drowned in the Thames in December 1888, and a note suggested mental instability ran in his family. Some believe he matched the psychological profile of the killer, especially given the timing of his death, right after the final murder. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish-Jewish immigrant and hairdresser who had a documented history of severe mental illness. He was committed to an asylum in 1891 where he remained for the rest of his life. Years later, a shawl allegedly linked to Catherine Eddowes surfaced with disputed DNA evidence that some claimed pointed to Kosminski, though the methodology has been widely criticized. Prince Albert Victor, the Duke of Clarence and Queen Victoria's grandson, often cited in more fantastical theories. Some alleged he was involved in a secret marriage and fathered an illegitimate child. The theory suggests that prostitutes aware of this secret were murdered in a government-led cover-up. Most historians dismiss this theory as lacking credible evidence, but it endures due to its royal intrigue. Dr. Thomas Neil Cream, a convicted serial poisoner who was hanged in 1892. Some believe he confessed to being Jack the Ripper at the gallows. However, records show he was in prison in the US during the Ripper murders, unless he had bribed his way out temporarily, as one sensational claim suggests. James Maybrick, a Liverpool cotton merchant whose personal diary, discovered in the 1990s, contained a supposed confession to the Ripper murders. Experts remain divided on the authenticity of the diary, with many labeling it a hoax, yet it adds to the lore. Jill the Ripper. Some even speculated that the killer might have been a woman, perhaps a midwife, who could walk bloodied through the streets without suspicion. A midwife would have been familiar with anatomy and would not have raised alarm if seen with blood on her clothing. There is no consensus. No definitive proof. Only shadows. And in each of these stories lies a tantalizing possibility. What if that haunts us even now? Chapter 6. Why he was never caught. So why was Jack the Ripper never caught? The answer lies in a mix of old-fashioned police work, societal prejudice, and bad luck. The East End was a labyrinth, full of alleys, shadows, and silence. The police was stretched thin, underfunded, and outmatched. And the victims? Poor women, often ignored by society. Also, the killer may have stopped. After the murder of Mary Jane Kelly, the killings abruptly ceased. Did he die? Was he jailed for another crime? Or did he simply vanish into the fog? We don't know, but theories abound. Some believe the Ripper took his own life, overcome by guilt, or perhaps madness. Others think he was a well-connected gentleman who was quietly sent abroad or institutionalized to avoid scandal. Still others suggest he was a foreign sailor, docked for a short time, who returned to the sea before suspicion ever found him. Then there are the conspiracy theories. One of the most enduring posits that the British government knew who he was all along, that the murders were tied to a royal scandal involving Prince Albert Victor. This theory involves a secret marriage, an illegitimate child, and a network of assassins sent to silence prostitutes who knew too much. It's sensational, heavily disputed, and lacks solid evidence, but it continues to capture imaginations. Another theory links the killings to Masonic rituals, pointing to supposed symbols carved near crime scenes and the prominence of Freemasons within the Metropolitan Police. Again, this remains speculative, but it adds a shadowy layer to an already dark tale. In the end, Jack the Ripper escaped justice, but perhaps that's what cements his place in history. The not knowing. The fear that he was never far, that he could have been anyone. A doctor, a butcher, a policeman, a neighbour. And when you consider how chaotic, panicked, and class-divided Victorian London was, it's not hard to imagine how someone could slip away forever. Chapter 7. Legacy and Obsession. Jack the Ripper wasn't the first serial killer, but he was the first to become a media phenomenon. His story has been told in books, films, TV shows, comic books, and games. Museums hold exhibits. Tours walk the streets of Whitechapel even today. He represents our deepest fears. The unknown killer, the face in the crowd, the monster that cannot be caught. But his story also reveals how society failed the women he killed, women driven to the edge, living in the shadows. Today we remember their names as much as his. Polly, Annie, Elizabeth, Catherine, Mary Jane. We remember the broken system that left them behind. And we wonder, have we changed enough? Outgrow, the fog lingers. Whitechapel has changed. The slums are gone. Neon lights now glow where gas lamps once flickered. But the fog, it still lingers in the minds of many. It rolls through our stories, our nightmares, our fascination with the darkness. And sometimes when I walk alone at night, I think of him. I picture the empty streets, the echo of footsteps, the sudden hush of fear. I wonder what drove him. Was he truly a monster, or just a man lost in a monstrous time? Jack the Ripper may never be unmasked. But perhaps the point is not to unmask him, but to understand the world that allowed him to disappear. Because in the end, history is not just about the killer in the shadows. It's about the people left behind, and the questions that never got answered. Thank you for listening.